The worst situation, the dating experience I had that was probably the turning and the tipping point for me on who to distance myself from and as a sex worker and to distance myself from emotionally in friendships and chosen family was one of my first ever clients who followed me for several years.
So he was a stalker.
I could call it that today.
That one? Yeah.
I would call it that today to some capacity or even to the full capacity because I thought he was a soulmate. And that followed me from 18 to about 22, 23, I think is when that relationship, 22 and a half is when that relationship ended. So he followed me from 18 onwards. It was like, oh, you've met me and my partner at that time. And him and his partner booked me for a threesome at Horizon in Sydney. Fabulous building, a Steedler architect building. It's crazy inside, killer views of the harbour. And I would go there and...
Horizon.
Check it out.
Great for threesome. Okay.
Great for a threesome. Great for a threesome.
I love you, man.
Killer balcony, killer view of the harbour. Great to have sex on that balcony. Just you got the whole view of the city and probably... City's got the whole view of you, but...
Now I need to check that bill for life.
But I met one of my longest term relationships through escorting. And I was warned about this, that meeting people that meet you with sex ends with sex. People that meet you with friendship. Generally, if it ends, it ends with kindness and you still have a friendship at the end of the day. Now, this relationship started with sex, was a threesome, which then their relationship eroded a couple of months later and this guy's going, hey, I want to catch up with you again. I had a few relationships between there that I was still sussing out. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, sorry, I'm dating someone. Yeah. Stay in your lane. You had your relationship. Cool the sheets before you let someone else in. Yeah. He kept messaging every time he saw that I'd broken up with someone or was single or whatever on Facebook. And I took that as a sign, which stupidly I reflect on that and go, no, it's just someone that was stalking and someone with a narcissistic behavioural problem that I eventually worked out that they were following me through
through your career.
Social and going, okay, well, I want to be with this person because he's sexually perverse. He can switch it on, switch it off. He's got a creative artistic side. So this guy and I ended up dating for just shy of 3.5, nearly 4 years. And I saw the best and the worst of that person and was in a situation where my escorting persona and personality was exploited in that relationship. But because it was so exciting and because it was like 50 Shades of Grey, if you're familiar with the book and the movie,
yes.
I had a 50 Shades of Grey relationship where I learned a lot and saw a lot. It was so exciting. But the pointy end, just like in the second movie, if you've seen the movie, she eventually gets her own back.
Yes.
I came to that crossroad in my relationship with this person where I had a choice of either to stay and play the victim of assault, which it ended with, or take that as a learning experience from that particular situation.
Get out.
And get out. And don't subject myself to it.
And what did you choose?
I chose to get out. The choice obviously met me with trauma and abuse that followed because that relationship was very, very colourful. And
looks like very volatile relationship.
Very full of, it was sex, drugs, rock and roll, and it was nearly 24/7. I uprooted my life from the Central Coast to be with this guy in Sydney. I stayed in his house. We lived together. It was a thing, and it was exciting. I won't say that relationship wasn't exciting and fun because it was, because there were so many things I did that I would not have done if it wasn't in that sort of construct. But coming out of it, I can reflect on that relationship and go, it wasn't an appropriate relationship, nor was it a safe relationship because it's very single-sided and the relationship was built around sex.
Yeah.
And for me as a sex worker, I had already thrown myself in the deep end of that and knew how to switch on and switch off this jet black persona. But in that relationship, I was jet all the time. So I'd go to work, come home, in a relationship.
It's interesting what you say. In that relationship, you were the jet all the time. A few minutes ago when we spoke about how you can switch off, you said like, well, when I was with somebody, it's a contractual need-based relationship, I'm the Jet and I come home, then I'm the Braeden. And then with this person, you say with your ex-partner, you say I was a Jet 24/7.
Yeah.
So he liked that side of you. Obviously, that was what you say. You see, there's a smirk on your face.
Yeah. And look, I enjoyed it because
So why did you stop it? Why did you stop?
The toxicity of not being authentic killed me on the inside.
Regardless, the time passed by, and you come out of being the excommunicado from the church and exorcism of the Braeden, right?
Yeah.
Looking for who is Braeden, for all these years, then you still didn't know who you are. Right?
Yeah. And in that relationship,
that's interesting.
Relationship, I thought I'd worked it out.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I can combine Braeden and Jet, and that is a workable relationship. But it started with sex. It was such a sex-heavy relationship. There was sex parties. There were other people. It was a very open, sexually fluid relationship. And it was fun and exciting because I did a lot of crazy shit. And it was a lot of fun. But the dangers that were in there and the red flags and the warning signs I ignored. I was oblivious because I was swept in this moment of euphoria because it was new and exciting. And someone liked this Jet persona and they said they liked me. And I thought that like was love. And they said it was. But I very quickly worked out that it was a love and a like for the fact that they could control me in their relationship for their narrative.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In that, we can talk about relationship. Doesn't matter, straight person, lesbian, gay, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's always something in those relationships. Either it's excitement or emotions or people are together with each other because of they have the habit, right? In your one, it's like everything was just compressed, right?
It was heightened.
It's like a fusion reactor, right?
Yeah.
But while you're talking to me about this experience, I can feel it or can see it. It's very emotional for you.
It is because
I can see it. I know people are gonna see it on when they're watching the interview.
Yeah.
You can't hide. You can't hide some things. And
I'm skirting around the edges of it because it was incredibly painful. And it wasn't so much painful because that relationship exploited me and it unearthed a lot of insecurities for me because even though I knew I was accepted in as Jet Black, I was accepted as a sex worker in a community that I chose as my chosen family. At home, I had a great family life and my family loved me and still do.
Yeah.
And then I wanted a relationship that was a blend of this community vibe and a blend of the love I had from my parents and my family at home. But that relationship was constructed in a way where it was so controlling with all the, smoke and mirrors of fun that led me down a path of destruction where I had a choice of either to stay in that relationship or leave because I got heavily involved in drugs myself because of the relationship being heavily sex-based. There's a lot of drugs in there. And
we don't know this. I can say about doesn't matter straight or gay again says, but we don't know how some certain communities work. But you mentioned a few times the drugs involved.
There's a lot of drugs and sex culture in the queer community, and it's there in the straight. But I think the gays like it a little bit more than the straights. Look, from my experience,
some people love to be extra, in a more
in the moment, in the mood, and it reduces those barriers and walls we put up, and it relaxes us into the moment, and that's what a lot of the gay guys do the drugs for. Yeah. But that relationship was so crazy and colourful that I'm like, well, I don't understand why you do this because I wasn't doing anything at that point. Drug-wise. Yeah. So I got on the bandwagon with them to understand the why, to get a feel for what do you get from this that you don't get from me as your partner. So there was that element of empathy from me where I could quite understand
Okay, interesting.
How do I relate with this person that I'm in a relationship with if I'm not on the same level, like on the same high as them?
That's a big thinking now.
Yeah.
Even you make me think now, just like it's like my empathy. I jump on a bandwagon, you say, and then because you want to see why I take drugs, and then that empathy. So, what's happened with that relationship?
I made that behavior acceptable.
Okay.
That's what happened.
Do you regret?
I normalized, sorry?
Do you regret?
I don't regret what I did in that relationship because it was fun.
Okay.
I regret, what I regret is the damage I've done to my body as a result of it, but all the internal damage. But the experience was an eye-opening one because you go through a lot of different relationship styles and people, and you meet different people, and there's this karmic relationship structure that every relationship I had was very karmic. I'd go into it, and every relationship would follow the same trajectory and end with a slightly worse outcome, like a more violent.
So you already knew that. So you already assessed the outcome of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a feeling, and if I reflect on these relationships I had, the ones that have been unsuccessful have all followed this same trajectory of let's meet, have a drink, fuck. Okay, cool. I like you. Sex is great.
You know what? I like it. I never spoke with someone like this. Like, let's go meet, let's go sleep. Let's go fucking go. That's it. Yeah.
So like, okay, cool. Well, the sex is great. We like each other's personality. Let's date, because it's kind of how a lot of the gay community works for the gay guys. It doesn't really work that way for the lesbian community, and I say that briefly because I have a lot of lesbian friends, and they lead with emotion a lot more. They go to the emotional connection, whereas guys, people say we think with our dicks, and I think to some capacity gay guys really do hone in on that particular rhetoric. Yeah. But there's this difference in how people approach relationships, and the gay guys are kind of like, well, we'll sleep together first, and if I like the sex, we'll date. Lesbians are like, no, I want to meet this person, see if we vibe, see if we click, and then...
Interesting. That's very interesting. You see? That's just like, let's go have a sex, and if I like a sex, I can date you.
Yeah.
Well, the lesbians like, let's go on the cooking classes together. And
let's see if we like each other and hang out properly before we, get in there. Yeah. But I noticed that difference, and I have these conversations with people all the time in the queer community, and I learned that as I was maturing. And that relationship I had that was the bad one, which is the worst one I ever had, was because it led with sex, ended with sex. The drugs were fueling the sex, the appetite. When the drugs stopped for the other person, they lost the appetite and projected that onto me, and I became the problem. Now, they chose to stop the use of their drugs because we moved interstate to start a new life, get away from all of that, and be together. But that essence of being together, when that crutch was removed, the drug element was removed for them, they lost who they were. I knew who I was because I didn't need the drugs to be in the relationship. Yeah. I was happy. I liked the person. I thought it would work. But without the drugs, they didn't know where they
couldn't function in a relationship.
Could not function. And even when the drugs stopped, couldn't function as a person. And that's when the relationship broke down. And for me, I wanted to be there because I had a connection with this person and I wanted it to work. But they didn't know how that worked.
Yes.
And a comment they made to me, which stuck and hurt a lot, was, I don't know how I feel about you anymore now that I'm not on the drugs. I don't even know what love is.
That's the biggest bullshit I ever heard, eh?
And I copped that.
No, sorry, I'm too sad. That's the biggest crap, because you're with somebody because you're with somebody. That, like, I can't do the parallels with this one. So, like, don't worry, man. That relationship that did have as well in my life as a straight man, like, don't you worry, they're being volatile as well, in various shapes as a form. But I will never, accept that somebody says to me, there's no drugs, I don't know, who you are and these things. But so you ended up this relationship, right?
The relationship ended in a way that wasn't, it was supposed to end amicably. It didn't. It ended with assault physically on me. And that stuck with me because at that point it was drugs, it was sex, drugs, rock and roll. And it was fun and exciting until the brakes got slammed, where I was the victim of assault, which went through court for several years in Melbourne until an outcome was reached in my favour. But it dragged on and on. And the mental trauma of being a victim of assault in a relationship that was like that to kind of have it discredited by courts and my career as a sex worker and the fact that there were drugs involved. And more importantly, which it annoys me the most, and it's still an issue for the queer community, is that when there's abuse in a queer relationship, because the heterosexual narrative doesn't fit from a legal standpoint, even though we've got equality, allegedly, and, parliamentary, apparently we do, in the court system when something goes wrong, there's this grey area of, but you're in a gay relationship, that's different. So the assault that happened to you, how do we know you didn't?
But you're human.
So that is still a problem in society here in Australia even, is that when that happened to me, even though I was the victim, I was treated like the criminal by police, by the court, by the psychologist, because I kept being told by these people, you brought it on yourself, you're gay. Even my barrister in the courtroom was saying, oh, he was in a sort of sexual relationship with a partner and this happened. And thankfully for me, I had a First Nations.
I don't believe I'll listen to this myself.
I had a First Nations magistrate who took my case.
Oh, okay.
And she said to the barrister, Mr. Linger, it was a relationship. He was in a sexual relationship. It was his partner. Doesn't matter his sexuality, doesn't matter his gender, doesn't matter any of the other stuff that you're saying, but you do not judge your client because of his sexuality and his gender. It was a relationship and that's all it was, and that's all you needed to say. She silenced my barrister who was there for me in that court hearing, and all the questions I got asked were asked by the magistrate. And she made comments to me that she had it hard through her career getting to that point because she's a First Nations woman, first female magistrate, First Nations first ever magistrate in Victoria.
Jeez, man.
And she said it wasn't easy for her, and she could empathise with me because she knows how...
She could relate it to you, yes.
She could relate to me because I was in this minority group looked down on by law because I'm in a gay relationship, and apparently that's different. For her, she was First Nations. From what she shared with me, she had similar situations around her. She's First Nations. You're not equal in life because you're First Nations versus, European settler Australian, which I have an issue with. I think that, even from my perspective, we're all equal. I hate the label thing.
As I said to you, again, I started this interview with you at the beginning and I told you coming from different environment, I need to learn my way out and to understand that everything what values are being given to me by birth, by my parents and the environment were wrong.
Yeah.
Were wrong. Because when you wake up in the morning and like my father, he will hate everybody, right? Everybody's a slut, there's a gay, he's a dick, he's a this and that. But he never look at the mirror. And my father, I'm not proud to say this because he's dead for 30 years, but the day the war started in Croatia, my father was the first one, he dumped me. My father left a message with my mom on table, we're okay. I didn't even know they left. That was my father. So I try to say to you, we are all victim of being judged by somebody, right? And I truly believe today, interview with you, it's going to be eye-opener for the many people because it is to be judged. And I mean, nobody understand when you're a public person like yourself or me, and we all going to face the firing squad, not literally, but firing squad of people punching us because they're judging us. Nobody has the right to judge you. I can say people cannot feel this, but I can feel the emotions around you, right? When you talk,
it makes you. But again, the judgment, if anything, because it came from many different levels. It came from never at home. That's the one place I can honestly say I was never judged. Still not judged. I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, because you had those parents.
I can go back. I can literally get on a plane, go to Brisbane, see my parents.
Yeah.
It's like, not like there's just no. It's like I can go there it's like I was there yesterday. My family is my parents, my family out in Riverwood, everywhere across Australia, there's zero judgment for me at home with my family. It's life outside where you get those bullets. And that song out of The Greatest Showman, This Is Me, right?
Yeah.
That song. And, 1,000 bullets hit your skin, but fire away because I won't let the pain sink in. It's the lyrics from that song, or the shame sink in, I believe he says.
Shame sinking.
Like, I can say that I relate to that song because at home I never had that problem. There were no shots fired. Outside in the real world, there was. But I got back up. There weren't moments in my life where I went, oh, I'm defeated. I was an assault victim. I fought. I knew I was an assault victim. I didn't let that person have control and win that story. I could have easily went, oh, well, the cops are saying I'm in a gay relationship and sorry, we can't help with that because it's not the same as everyone else's. I went, nah, fuck you. It's a relationship. I'm going to ring around and find someone in your cop shop in Victoria that will listen to me because you're not. So take you off the case. Let's put someone else on that can see this as a relationship. And I went through queer liaison officer after queer liaison officer after queer liaison officer until I got one that was actually what their job title was, that cared, and went through about 6 different psychologists that were trying to assess it as well. So I went through those experiences, but it made me stronger. It wasn't a matter of defeat or giving up or having a feeling where I couldn't be who I wanted to be because society's saying I can't be that way. For me, it was genuinely about standing up for what was right at that time and being myself. It wasn't about being what people want me to be. It was about being what I wanted to be and who I was and who I identified as. And the more I got knocked down for that, the more I wanted to fucking fight it because I copped it in the church. I copped it outside of my family environment. I copped it in school. And I thought if I can't fit in here, then it's not the place for me. It wasn't about, oh, well, I don't fit in anywhere, so I don't fit in at all. I worked out I didn't need to fit in because society kept challenging me and I kept pushing back. And every time I pushed back, I won.
I admire it. I admire it. Like, look, it's like I told you at the beginning, I want conversing with you for the, for many, many episodes to come because it's not question you are gay or not gay. We are all the humans inside. And I do remember one of the schools I went in the military, which I met my first wife. She's a doctor. And she told us we all have how many bones and we all same. She tried to she was implying how to save the life or opposite of saving the life, right? So that was her job. And we all same under the skin. So being gay, you or me being straight, I truly believe there's going to be a lot of people there who's going to take this on board, what you said. You know what I mean? Because I have a few more questions, of course. But the thing is, it's not just your courage. It's your determination to make a life better for yourself. Yeah. It's not easy to sit here. You are the one who is actually voiced yourself out. You want to share your story. You want to help the people. And I truly believe that you'll help not just the gay community or queer community, whatever it is. Apologies again. My English is not
You're fine.
But
there's too many letters in that acronym.
Yeah, but it's like you have your agency, and then tell me about drag queen thing. So you are now for 2 years
longer.
Okay, so 2 years without.
I started doing drag in 2012. Okay. I think I'll go back to one of your former questions though before we get there. Yeah. So I think the question you asked about, how do you navigate a relationship being an escort?
Yeah, how do you because you told me you're being judged by the community you're selling,
I met people.
No, you sidetrack yourself.
I sidetrack.
Yes,
I get so involved. I know. So how do you navigate that relationship and escorting? Yeah. I met people in my escorting career that were in relationships in Melbourne, and one's a sex worker, one's a porn star. And I thought, how the hell does that work? Because I've worked as a sex worker and I can't land a guy that goes, yeah, I'm cool with this. Because every time I dated someone, they're like, oh, you're a sex worker. No, can't be bothered with that. I give it away for free and you got paid for it. So they got jealous. And so my friends that I met, I had these conversations. I'm still friends with these people now. And yeah, so my escort friend Annabelle in Sydney, in Melbourne, was filling me in and saying, look, we see each other as equals. We know the limits between being a sex worker and that's work to being in a relationship and that's home. And we know how to separate the two because we know who our personality is in the workplace and we know what our personality is at home. And that's what I learnt to do with my relationships. I very quickly learned after that bad relationship I had to go, you know what? This jet thing works in work, but it's not working at home in these relationships. I can't meet people on a sex-based starting point because every time these relationships I had started that way, they ended.
And you mentioned this before, yeah.
And the relationship I'm in now is so much more different to any relationship I've been in before because it didn't start with sex. It started with a friendship. We're both in two different states. I was in Melbourne. They were in Sydney in the Southern Highlands. And he was travelling up, seeing me for several weeks. And this was during the whole pandemic thing. And we got along on a emotional, mental level. Sex was not something we explored at the start. Yeah. That came later.
Way later, yeah.
Way later. And once we were really serious about each other. But we had a list because we had both come from very similar storylines in our lives where it wasn't like, hi, hey, how are you? I'm good. Yeah, I'm good too. What do you want to do? Oh, I don't know, not much. What are you doing tomorrow?
Let's go rob the bank together. Yeah, let's go do it.
That wasn't our conversation. And we met on Grindr. But, and it doesn't happen for everybody, and not many people would respond in a way like this on Grindr, but I sent a dot point list of questions. Hi.
Who does this?
I got sick of guys doing, hi, how are you? Good. You? I got sick of those conversations. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to send you a list of questions. So I was like, hey, how are you? Good. Oh, and he's responded and said, I'm only here to furnish my brother's apartment. I'm not here looking for anything serious. I'm only here for tonight, then I go back home tomorrow. If you want to come around for a drink, have a chat, that's cool. But just telling you now, there's nothing else. And I'm like, oh, this guy's from Sydney. I know that means nothing. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to do anything means whatever. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. For me, 5 minutes was an hour. So I got dressed up as Jet. So Jet fashion, jacket, the hair, the eyeliner. Ooh. Like I look schmick. I got there and he's like, look, don't put any effort in because I've literally been cleaning the house all day. I'm in a pair of tracksuit pants and a shirt. I turned up looking like smoking hot. And he's like, wow, you put some effort in. That's why you were late. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, I'm meeting you for the first time. I might as well put my best foot forward. So
did he say, just wait, have a shower and everything else?
No, he stayed in his own clothes. Like, I'm not getting checked. So I liked that. He didn't change himself. He didn't feel like he needed to. Yeah. Which then made me go, well, I probably overdid this. But we spoke for like 7-8 hours. Like, we stayed up. He offered me a drink. I'm like, I'm not much of a drinker. By that point, obviously, a year or two had passed since the abusive relationship, and I didn't want to touch any sort of substance because it was too triggering. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not much of a drinker. You can have one. I'll just sit here and chat. I think he poured a glass of champagne and I had one with him, but I didn't finish it because I'm not much of a drinker. I'm still a one drink screamer, I think they call him. I'm really quick on the alcohol because I don't drink a lot of it. And we had a chat. We just spoke. And I felt more at ease with him because we emotionally connected. And it wasn't about sex. There was none of this, okay, we've got to really...
Well, you don't talk to somebody 7-8 hours if you don't feel connected.
No.
There's no sex, there's nothing. And you know what I mean? Like, you feel comfortable.
Yeah. So I stayed the night and we still didn't do anything sexually. And then he had to go the next day. So we was walking till the morning. So we slept for 4 hours. And then he's like, I've got to drive back to Sydney.
Yeah.
So he dropped me back at my apartment. I went inside and said, look, before I got inside, I said, look, I'm not good at goodbyes. And I'm like, as I walked out of the car, because I'm really not. If I like someone and I know it's a one-time thing and I'm never going to meet this person again, I'm like, wow, I had a really good chat. We had a really good connection. You're dropping me home. I may not see you again. I gave him my number thinking,
Man, no call, yeah.
he may not call me. He's from Sydney. He's not going to call me. I'm in Melbourne. What's he going to, like, he's not going to change his life. I'm not leaving here to go back to Sydney.
What year was that, if I'm asking?
This is 2 years ago.
Well, who wants to be in Melbourne, mate? Who wants to stay in Melbourne?
After the pandemic?
Now you know, okay.
After the pandemic, I was ready to get out of there.
After pandemic, it's okay.
I was ready to get out of there. Like, the pandemic happened when I met this guy, and it was at the pointy end of Melbourne where I'd basically been in prison for a year in my own apartment.
This is just
in Melbourne.
Melbourne.
My perception of what I was going through.
We were crying here for you guys, honestly.
It was insane. Like, this whole martial law shit. And then I met this guy. During COVID. I'm like, well, I can't do much because I'm not fully vaccinated yet, and I can't go to pubs and clubs and bars and have drinks because I've got to have 2 vaccines, and I couldn't even have one.
I know this.
Because my immune system was shot, and so I couldn't touch anything till Moderna came out. So he was coming from Sydney to Melbourne on and off after that first engagement because he was prepared to explore something with me because it wasn't sex-led. And we had that conversation that there's clearly something here. And when I got out of his car and into my apartment that day and I looked back at him through the window, I didn't realise that he saw me do that. I thought the windows were tinted. Turns out they're not. So I met this guy. He drove me home. I looked back at the window. I'm like, okay, well, he's driving off. He hasn't stopped. He hasn't sent me a text. But I get a text sort of in my head. And he said to me the day following that if I didn't turn around or say I'm not good at goodbyes, I probably wouldn't have stuck with him to actually explore the relationship. And funnily enough, he said if we had sex on that first meeting, I would have blocked you.
See, this is, I always say these things happen for the life in reason.
Yeah.
So, are you happy guys now?
Happy. This relationship I have is by far the most real because it didn't start with sex, it's authentic. I'm myself. He knows everything about me and everything I've done. I entered that conversation and that relationship very raw. I'm like, here's everything about me online. This is the business I operate. This is what I've done for 10 years. Take it or leave it. And it was a bit of for him, quite confronting. But it wasn't confronting in a bad way. It was like, this is a lot of information.
That's in past. It's in past.
Yeah, and for him, it was very much, this is who he is. I like his personality. He's raw, he's himself.
So can I ask you, okay, so in the meantime, you are, as well, the drag queen. I spoke about this one. What is a drag queen? Can you share with us okay, I know that you're overdressed, over makeup and everything else. I know because I saw in the arc. Because I saw this, the drag queen next to me, like a peasant from Croatia. I never saw my life, I mean? I live in Australia for 4 years, work in embassy, but then I work in the industry as a bouncer. And then when I started working as a bouncer, they sent me in the arc, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? All the men inside, it's a black market, this and it's like, what does that even mean? And the boys like, Mario. I said, look, I have no idea. And there was a drag queens next to us, right? And I was like, Jesus, that's a lot of makeup, you know what I mean? I was like, are you laughing? I was like, I never said to my, that's a drag queen. I was like, what do you mean? Okay, tell us, what is a drag queen?
For me, it was an over creative expression of...
It seems always creative expression, yes.
Look, I'm into art and theatre and always have been. And drag for me was something I could bring to the forefront of the queer community because I saw that was a thing. And I'm like, well, I'm artistic, I like drama, I like music. Maybe this is what you do. If you're gay, you whack on a wig, you pop on a pair of heels and you just express yourself. And so that's what I did. And so for me, it was just another extension of my creativity that I couldn't do as a guy because I saw a lot of flamboyant guys, but then I'm like, well, they're not drag queens, they're just flamboyant guys. And then I had friends that were drag queens, and they put me in drag for the first time ever. And this is back in 2010.
Yeah.
They put me in drag, put me in a black slip dress, a pair of clunky heels.
You love black colour, don't you?
A black bob wig. So it was like short cut, black wig, and this friend of mine that was one of the drag queens, said to me, oh, I'm very good at makeup. I've got all this, Revlon cosmetics and all this stuff. I'll make it look very fish. I'm like, what the fuck's fish mean? Basically very feminine. Now, mind you...
I'm just laughing now because the way how you explain, I was like, I never heard this expression before.
Yeah.
It's like, what if fish means like...
Fish? I'm like, I don't want fish on my face. But... So I was like, I'm not sure I want that.
Yeah.
But then she's like, no, trust me, it's fine. So
trust the process, yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. Put on the heels, shape my legs in the shower, cut my legs, put on the stockings. I'm like, okay, it's taken forever to do just this thing. So I'm in the slip dress, I'm in the heels, I'm in the wig. I've put the dress on. I've got padded tits in with no bra because the friends didn't have a bra, so I just put them in so the boobs are like
a little bit out of symmetry.
Completely offside. And fish makeup, which, mind you, I thought looked okay at the time in the mirror. But because it's women's makeup and I've got men's skin, it melted off very quickly. It didn't stick. So it absorbed
interesting. I didn't know
it absorbed into my skin. It's cheap shit makeup, which looked okay. All I had on my face by it was the lashes I had glued on, black eyeliner, and then this pinky red coral lip gloss.
You're not happy with yourself afterwards, right?
I look like a hot mess. And they're like, oh, let's go to Stonewall, whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, great. I look at that. I found that photo about a year ago, buried in one of my old phones, and I'm like, fuck, that is never seeing the light of day.
Did you laugh or did you say, oh, wait, I'm going to bury this photo?
I want to bury this photo. And I went out to Stonewall and did this outfit, the slip dress, performed at Polly's Follies at Stonewall. And Polly gave me my first real gig in the gay scene beyond that point. And that ended up being an eye-opening experience. But in drag, I felt more confident and I felt I could express creatively that way. But I was able to ask questions again. So obviously, sex worker on the side, now I'm doing drag. And I asked questions, saw drag queens, I'm like, why do you do it? Like, what is the reason you do it? Because I'm like, this is my first time, I'm confident, I love this, it's creative, it's art, I'm a character, I feel like a clown. And I thought, what do you do it for? And I met people that did it because they were trans, they felt like a woman trapped in a man's body, and in drag they felt their most authentic self. And then I met other people that did it because they just loved theatre and drama and art and the creativity of it. And then others just found it quite liberating as well. And I had these conversations. I'm like, okay, trans, well, I don't think I'm that, but kudos to you. You've got the confidence to do this, and this is how you identify. And I learnt by asking those questions, and then I went back home and went, great. Saw a photo of myself, and I'm like, that's getting deleted. This guy...
We're going to find something like this.
This guy took a photo of me, and this is at Nevermind, which is next to Stonewall, and it's gone now. But Nevermind was there, and this photographer, who still works for Star Observer, took this photo, and he was a designated photographer. I think his name's Matt Atkinson. I'm pretty sure his name's Matt. He took the photo, and I'm on this glow-up light box table thing in these heels, stripper heels, in this black dress, and I've done like a slut drop in drag, and it's like he's taken a photo, and you can see right up the skirt, like the skirt had ridden. And so you've got Bond's underwear label showing and all with the skirt up. And I'm like, why the fuck did that photo make it onto the Nevermind Facebook channel? And so I messaged Matt, I'm sure it was Matt that did this. And I'm like, Matt, take the photo down. I don't want it on like rah. He's like, oh my God, I just uploaded all the photos in bulk. I didn't pay any attention. So it came down. But
you are paying attention.
I saw it. I was looking and I'm like, I want to see myself in drag. He's a good photographer. He's going to take all these amazing photos. And I did like a blow a kiss photo to the camera. Never want to see that photo ever again. It looks, compared to where I am now with what I've done with my drag look and feel and persona, that is the complete polar opposite. Because I worked out that the feminine side that I tried to portray is not what I really want to have in drag. I don't want to have a dulled down, look like a woman on everyday look, which is what I had back then. I wanted the creative, artistic. You can tell that it's not a woman. By looking at me in drag, you can tell that a woman wouldn't wear what I'm wearing. She wouldn't have pink and purple hair. It wouldn't be that big. She'd be doing pink and purple makeup. So
that's what's like. That's a so like it was like, like this hair, like makeup on. I said, look, why are you doing? I'm like, oh, you don't understand. I was like, no, I don't. Explain to me. Somebody says to me, it's a drag queen. It's like, okay, what does that mean, drag queen?
It's over-accentuated feministic styling, but again, it's art and theatre.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drag queens overseas even that don't look like women. They paint themselves very differently, or they do makeup and they look like a character. They do an elf, they do the devil, they do something artistic. So to me, drag is just art.
Art.
And that's how I see it. And before, when I used to sing and do theatre and stuff in school and private events and all this other stuff I dabbled in, drag was an extension of that. There was another way for me to express my creativity without being judged for it, even though drag queens judge other drag queens, because they don't
yes, you do. Yeah. Look at you like a makeup, you know.
We feel like, we feel amazing in drag, and we're like, oh, you could fix that, you could fix this. Like, we pass judgment as drag queens, but it's all in jest. It's never in, like, it's not an aggressive thing. I think that in drag, a lot of drag queens, we take the piss out of each other, because we already are, really.
See, that's what we don't see, behind the scenes, that the drag queens, the gays, the lesbians, everything else. It's very judgmental, as you said, like, you know what I mean? But after all, you guys looking for some fun, and being drag queen, obviously, it is an artistic, expressive way, and you feel comfortable. I can see that you feel comfortable with this one. So that
it's a fun characterization, and it's a over accentuated version of myself, where even my partner and my family say sometimes when you're having a bad day, Braeden, we prefer charismatic over you, because charismatic as a person is softer, demure, whimsical, flamboyant, happy, heart on the sleeve sort of thing, whereas Braeden can be very rough. Me out of drag, I am me, what you're getting now. Straight to the point, black and white, spade's a spade. Drag, I'm not.
Which
like
leads me
that.
to my last question, because I need to ask this question. Where's Braeden now? Where are you now? What are you doing now? After all this discovery, since 2004 to
now.
To now,
I know that I'm now in a place where I'm happy with who I am. I don't feel like I have to change myself anymore. Every relationship I had, I kept trying to please the other person. Now I just want to please myself. And if that means in the process of me being happy, my partner's happy, and together we're happy, great. I feel like I can breathe now than before, both physically and metaphorically. Before, I felt like I was in a rush, have to get somewhere, I'm not fitting in. Like I was racing the clock for God knows what reason, why I felt like I had to do that, because now I can mentally do all that with work and what I'm doing with my brands and what I do with my businesses and clients in marketing and PR. But for me as a person, I can sit in the moment and relax and not worry about what's going on around me, unless it's close to home, which is my partner's opinion and feelings, and that's important to me, family important to me. But when I'm off the clock and no longer working, I can give a shit what's going on outside. But for me right now, I can honestly say that everything I've gone through has been an eye-opener, both the escorting, the church, family life, which has not changed, unwavering support and love there. The challenges I've had with relationships have taught me about myself, resilience, perseverance. Towards the end of those relationships I had, I learned that I'm not going to change myself for people. And eventually those relationships were very short-lived because they were trying to change me, and I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm not becoming something you want me to be. This is who I am, and if that doesn't fit for you in the relationship you want, then I'm not for you. And where I am now is very, very direct, and in a book recently my friend published, I'm referred to as being shrewd and unapologetically myself and unapologetically authentic and unapologetically the sex worker in the past and unapologetically a go-getter as a marketer and all that. But above all, she references the fact that what she has seen me go through and what everyone else has seen that's close to me has seen that I've come out the other end true to myself, authentically myself.
You did.
And I'm not trying to change myself to please other people, which I've been doing for such a long time in my escort career. And I thought I had to do that.
Yeah.
And then I met the one that I'm with now. And
how long are you together?
We've just been together just over 2 and a bit years, but it feels like a long time. And our first year we went to Europe. We've been to the Maldives. We've travelled the world. We're going on a cruise next year. Like our first cruise together, a normal cruise, but a Virgin Voyages cruise. We wanted to do no children. We've worked out we don't.
Of course you want to go with no children, mate.
We don't. We don't like kids, which is great. We love them from a distance, but we don't want our own.
It's a different with the adults. So
yeah, we don't want our own, which is great. Which was interesting to find someone that we both love them from a distance. We will be gay uncles to many children that are not our own, but will never be fathers. I really don't think that'll ever happen for us at this stage in our lives. We're kind of beyond that. But for me, I'm happy because I'm in a relationship with somebody that truly loves me for me, and the person I'm with, I know I love them for them, because we don't judge each other, and beyond everything else there's communication. And one thing that both of us have never had in previous relationships that we always talk about is that we can sit down after having an argument and like verbally bash each other for an hour, and then we sit down for 10 minutes and shut the fuck up, and we're like, what the hell are we arguing about? And we just let it go. But we communicate about it. What got us to that point? In previous relationships, you had an argument, it was over.
Yeah.
Or you have an argument, you have sex, and it's over. In this relationship, we have a chat about an argument, laugh about it, and then get over it. We talk, and I've not had that in other relationships, because a lot of the other relationships I've had to this point have been sex, maybe we'll get along, or there's a person with an addiction problem and that becomes the crux of the relationship, and then it becomes the motivator for why I leave the relationship. This relationship I've entered has no addiction problems. We both know who we are. One of us is a successful hairdresser. The other one is a successful former sex worker with a marketing business. Together, both of us have lived very different lives, but we have very similar stories, and we've collided into a relationship where we're both happy, authentically ourselves, and above anything understand each other, because we get where we came from, and there's no judgment for that, which
if you are
is the first.
If you need to go to that life again, would you change anything, or would you go to that experience? Would you go to that experience again?
Look, it was fun.
Yeah.
Look, I have moments where, and I do have moments where I will sit back, have a few cocktails, and go, "Oh God, it was fun when I did this." And then I remember the days that followed, and go, "Oh, I really couldn't put up with the come down of that."
But
moment.
don't you think that this actually made you? All that experiences made you today who you are.
Absolutely.
And I say to again,
stronger because of it.
Not just stronger. I truly believe. We talk for 2 hours now, and I think that, no, it is, because see, the time is just flying. I never had a conversation with somebody longer than 60 minutes. In all honesty, I never have, and I never interviewed somebody that side who I didn't interrupt all the time, because I wanted to learn. I wanted to understand. Because you don't bring in just your experience. You bring in the life-saving phone line for many people, because they can't reach you, or they can't call somebody, but they can rewind this interview. They can say, that's what the Braeden did. That's what the Braeden experienced. Now I know what I need to do, maybe, or something like this. So I'll leave this on this, Braeden. So I'd like to say thank you very much for being my guest today. Hopefully we're going to meet soon, and we will. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put the comment section below how you can contact Braeden. And Braeden, thank you very much for being my guest on Life to Battlefield.
Thank you, Mario. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.